Isn't it strange? We spend so much of our lives running from discomfort. Yet the moments that shatter us wide open are often the very ones that forge us into who we're meant to be. Right now, as you're hearing this, you might be in the middle of something that feels unbearable. Maybe you're sitting in your car after a draining day, feeling completely emptied out. Maybe you're lying awake at 2 a.m., trying to understand how everything unraveled so fast. Or maybe you're simply exhausted. Exhausted from pretending you're fine when you're not. Exhausted from wearing a mask that's become too heavy to hold up. Here's a perspective shift that can change everything. While most people interpret their darkest hours as proof that life has turned against them, the ancient Stoics recognized something profound. Our deepest wounds can become our greatest instructors. The very events we try hardest to escape are often the ones leading us to our truest strength. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who endured personal losses that would crush many, wrote in his private notes, "The mind that pursues the good, whether it achieves it or not, is honored by its very pursuit." He didn't write that to impress anyone. He wrote it to remind himself that even in heartbreak, even in defeat, even when life feels empty, there is dignity in continuing to seek what is right. Let me be real with you. This message might bring tears, and I'm not apologizing for that. Sometimes we need to feel the full weight of the strength we already carry. Sometimes we need to remember that we've survived every hard day up to this one. And that is no small accomplishment. It's extraordinary. But here's the challenge. We live in a culture that tells us to dodge discomfort at all costs. Swipe past anything that stirs emotion. Buy something to fill the emptiness. Distract yourself until the ache fades. What if I told you that what you're running from is actually the doorway to who you're meant to be? The Stoics had no phones to scroll, no endless entertainment to drown their sorrow. When Marcus Aurelius buried children, when Epictetus endured slavery and torture, when Seneca faced exile and execution, they had no option but to sit with their reality. And in that stillness, they found what we've forgotten. Pain is not an enemy. Struggle is not a sign of weakness. These are the raw ingredients of transformation. Right now, someone hearing this is carrying a hidden battle. Someone is mourning a loss that altered everything. Someone is standing before a fear that feels larger than their courage. And someone is questioning if they can keep moving forward. I'm here to tell you what the Stoics already knew. You can. Not because you're some superhuman, but because you are human. This isn't another speech telling you to think positive or to pretend your challenges don't exist. This is about learning to move with your struggles, to uncover meaning in the chaos, and to see that the very things breaking your heart might be breaking it open, making room for more love, more wisdom, and more compassion than you imagined. So, here's what I want you to do right now. If these words are resonating, hit the like button, not for me, but as your own commitment that you're ready to hear truths that may be uncomfortable but necessary. Leave a comment to show you're facing your own battles with courage. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded of their own strength. Subscribe, because we are building a community that chooses growth over comfort. And whatever you do, don't skip a word. Every sentence here is meant for someone, and that someone might be you. The next points aren't just theories, they're invitations. Invitations to view your life differently, to find reservoirs of strength you didn't know existed, to see that your sensitivity, your hardships, your human heart, these are not flaws to erase, but powers to claim. Let us know you're here by commenting this affirmation and standing firm. My pain is becoming my power. Number 1, the treasure disguised as your hardest day. Let me share the story of a single day that completely altered the course of my life. And maybe it will help you see why your hardest day could end up being your greatest gift. It happened on a Tuesday. Funny how life often chooses an ordinary day to deliver the lessons we never thought we'd have to learn. I woke believing it would be routine. By nightfall, every certainty I had about myself, my relationships, and my future had been stripped away. You know that sensation when the ground you've been standing on suddenly vanishes. When the story you've told yourself for years no longer makes any sense. That's exactly where I found myself. And maybe that's where you are right now. Here's what the Stoics understood that we've largely forgotten. Our most painful days are not punishments. They are moments of revelation. Epictetus, who knew suffering firsthand, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And those words didn't come from someone living in comfort. They came from a man who had been enslaved, whose master had shattered his leg, who had lost everything the world valued. From the depths of that experience, he uncovered a truth. When the external is torn away, what remains is the essence of who you truly are. Your worst day does not define you, it uncovers you. It strips away illusions, revealing the strength that remains when everything else is gone. I remember sitting in my car that night, crying in a way I hadn't since childhood, not the cinematic, graceful kind of tears, but the deep, raw sobs that feel like they're tearing through your soul. And in that complete unraveling, something shifted. I stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single change in perspective altered everything. Suddenly, I was no longer a victim of my situation. I became a student of it. The pain didn't vanish, but it turned into something I could use. The fear didn't dissolve, but it transformed into fuel for a courage I didn't know I had. Your hardest day is working to show you a side of your resilience you can't uncover any other way. It reveals a depth of strength that comfort could never draw out. It teaches you that you are not as fragile as you believed, not as powerless as you feared, and not as isolated as you sometimes feel. Think about the people you admire most, the stories that inspire you, the examples of greatness that move you. They all share one thing in common. They each lived through a moment, or many moments, when everything collapsed. And each of them made the same decision you have the opportunity to make right now, to let the breaking become a breaking open. The treasure hidden inside your most painful day doesn't appear right away. At first, it's wrapped in confusion, bound with cords of grief, delivered at the most inconvenient time. But inside that package lies everything you need to grow into the person you're meant to become. Inside is the compassion you'll carry for others in pain. Inside is the endurance you'll need for challenges you can't yet see. Inside is the hard-earned wisdom that comes only from walking through the fire and discovering you weren't destroyed. You were refined. Your worst day is not the ending of your story. It's the start of a richer chapter. Not richer because life gets easier, but richer because you become stronger, wiser, more compassionate, and more authentic. If you're ready to let your hardest moments be your teachers, write this in the comments. My worst day revealed my best self. Number 2. The hidden strength in feeling deeply. At some point, someone probably told you that you feel too much, that you're overly sensitive, overly emotional, too intense. Maybe they said it softly out of concern, or maybe sharply out of irritation. But either way, the message was clear. The world believes there's something wrong with experiencing life so deeply in a culture that seems to reward detachment. Here's what I wish someone had told you from the start. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw to be fixed. It's a rare ability you've been conditioned to hide. Seneca, one of Rome's most influential thinkers, wrote letters to a close friend that were so unguarded, so emotionally raw, they still bring tears to readers 2,000 years later. In one, he said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." What makes that line remarkable is that it wasn't written from a cold, distant place. It was born out of heartbreak, loss, and the kind of grief that only someone with an open heart can feel. The Stoics were not the emotionless statues they're often portrayed as. They were, in many ways, the most emotionally aware people of their era. They didn't avoid their feelings, they embraced them. The difference was, they learned to hold their emotions without being consumed by them. There's a vast difference between experiencing deeply and drowning in the experience. Your sensitivity allows you to see life in rich, vivid color, while others are trapped in gray. It's the reason you sense when something is wrong before there's evidence. It's why beauty can move you to tears. It's why another person's pain can feel like your own. This is not weakness, it's instinct, it's insight, and it's wisdom that can't be learned from a book. Your emotions are not random accidents, they're signals. They're your internal navigation system, guiding you toward truth. That unease you feel in a relationship, it's not paranoia, it's perception catching what logic hasn't yet processed. That excitement you feel for a path others dismiss, it's your intuition recognizing a possibility invisible to them. The world desperately needs people who feel deeply. We need people who care enough to hurt sometimes, because caring is what inspires change. We need those who can notice when someone is suffering behind a practiced smile. We need those who can stand in awe of a sunset and feel its beauty resonate in their bones. We need those who can sense injustice and be moved to act. Your tears are not evidence of weakness. They are proof of aliveness. Your intense emotions are not flaws. They are rare gifts. Your ability to feel another person's struggle is not a burden. It's empathy in motion. Stop apologizing for the depth of your feelings. Stop trying to numb what makes you profoundly human. Stop buying into the lie that strength means feeling less. True strength means you can feel it all and still keep showing up, still care, still choose kindness even when it's easier to close off, still believe in the good even when you have reasons not to. Your sensitivity is your greatest advantage because it allows you to connect in ways shallow interactions never could. It fuels your creativity, your capacity to love, your ability to inspire, your power to heal, not in spite of your emotions, but because of them. If you believe that your depth is not a weakness, but a source of power, post this in the comments. My sensitivity is my strength, not my weakness. Number 3, how losing it all can lead you back to yourself. There comes a point in every life when what you believed you couldn't live without is taken away. Sometimes it happens suddenly, a job gone, a relationship ended, a dream collapsing, a loved one lost. Other times it happens gradually, like watching your old life fade away piece by piece until one day you wake up and barely recognize yourself or the world you're in. I want to talk about that moment, because if you haven't been there yet, you will. And if you're in it now, I want you to know this: you are not falling apart, you are falling into place. Marcus Aurelius understood this truth better than most. He once wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Those words are easy to read, but harder to live. And he didn't write them from comfort. He wrote them as a man who buried children, who watched his empire weaken, who faced betrayals that could break any heart. He wrote them because he had learned something profound through his losses. When everything external is stripped away, what's left is what's unshakably yours. There's a strange mix of beauty and brutality in losing everything you thought defined you. It's brutal because it hurts in ways you didn't know were possible, but it's beautiful because it forces you to meet the person you truly are beneath all the roles, titles, possessions, and attachments that were never the real you in the first place. I remember the day I lost what I believed was my whole identity, the career I'd invested years into, the relationship I thought would last forever, the carefully built future I assumed was guaranteed. In what felt like minutes, it all dissolved. I sat in an empty apartment surrounded by boxes, feeling like a stranger in my own life. Here's what no one tells you about hitting rock bottom. It's solid. You can rebuild on it. When there's nothing left to cling to, you have everything to gain. When your old ways no longer work, you're forced to discover new ones. When your past identity falls away, you're free to decide who you want to become next. The art of losing everything isn't about learning to let go gracefully, though that comes later. It's about seeing loss as liberation. Every ending clears space for something new. Every door that closes redirects you toward the one that's meant for you. Every person who walks away leaves room for those who are meant to stay. Loss is not punishment. It's not proof that you're unworthy. It's a course correction from a wiser universe that knows what you truly need. It's an invitation to stop forcing outcomes and start trusting the process. Think of a tree in winter. At a glance, it looks lifeless, bare branches against a grey sky. But beneath the surface, in its roots and core, life is quietly gathering. It's not dying. It's preparing for spring. That's you right now. If you're in a season of loss, you might feel empty, exposed, broken. But beneath the surface, in unseen places, you're collecting strength for what's coming next. You're growing roots that will reach deeper than anything you've had before. You're preparing for a version of yourself that you can't yet imagine. The art of losing everything is, in truth, the art of finding yourself. Not the self the world told you to be, but the self you truly are. Not the self that needs constant validation, but the self whose worth is self-contained. Not the self that shatters when life changes, but the self that bends and grows stronger. Number 4, the unexpected gift in dreams that don't come true. Some of you listening right now are grieving a dream that never happened. Maybe it was a business you poured yourself into that collapsed. Maybe it was a relationship you believed would last that ended. Maybe it was a career that never took flight, or a life plan completely derailed by forces you couldn't control. And now you're left wondering if this means you failed, if you should have worked harder, or if you're destined to always fall short of what you truly want. Let me offer you an idea that may sound unbelievable at first. Your broken dreams aren't failures. They're redirections towards something far more fitting than you could have imagined. Epictetus taught something radically freeing. Don't demand that events happen as you wish. Instead, wish that they happen exactly as they do. He wasn't telling people to give up their will or settle for less. He was pointing to the fact that our attachment to one specific outcome often blinds us to better opportunities waiting in disguise. Picture someone who spends 3 years chasing a single vision. They pour every ounce of time, energy, health, and joy into reaching it, sacrificing sleep, connection, and balance. Then, without warning, that dream collapses. In the shock that follows, it feels like those years were wasted, like life stole something from them. Anger rises, at fate, at themselves, at everyone who seems to be succeeding where they've failed. But here's what's invisible in that moment of heartbreak. That dream wasn't wasted. It was preparing them. The failure was breaking them open so that new, more aligned dreams could emerge. The skills they developed chasing that path became the foundation for something entirely different and much more fulfilling. The people they met, the resilience they built, the character they shaped, none of it was in vain. It was all groundwork for a future they couldn't yet see. Your broken dreams are not proof that you're incapable. They're proof that you're being guided towards something that fits who you are becoming, not who you used to be. Sometimes we have to release dreams that were never truly ours, so we can welcome the ones that are. Think about a river meeting a boulder. It doesn't stop flowing. It shifts, carving a new path that often ends up more beautiful than the one before. The obstacle doesn't end the journey, it enriches it. Your broken dreams can teach you more than your fulfilled ones ever could. They show you that your value isn't tied to external achievements. They reveal strengths you might never have discovered otherwise. They develop a wisdom that only comes from having your heart broken open and deciding to keep it open. Maybe that relationship ending was keeping you from settling for less than you deserve. Maybe the job you didn't get was steering you toward work that lights you up. Maybe the dream you were so sure was right was actually too small for your true potential. I'm not saying it won't hurt. I'm not saying you shouldn't mourn what didn't work out. Let yourself feel the disappointment fully. That's part of being human. But don't allow that grief to convince you you're not meant for beauty. Don't let one closed door trick you into thinking they're all locked. Your broken dreams are becoming fertile ground for new dreams to grow. Dreams that are better suited to who you've become through the breaking and rebuilding. Dreams you couldn't have imagined back when you were still holding on so tightly to the old ones. Trust the process, even when you can't see the destination. Trust that life is quietly working for you, not against you. Trust that what feels like the end could be the most important beginning of your life. If you're ready to believe that broken dreams can lead to better ones, share this in the comments. My broken dreams are becoming better dreams. Number 5, the holiness hidden in your hardest battles. I want to share something that could completely change how you see every difficult season you've faced. Your struggle isn't a flaw in life's design, it's a feature. It's not a signal that something has gone wrong, but rather proof that something important is unfolding in a way you didn't expect. We live in a culture that treats struggle like an infection to be eradicated as quickly as possible. Pop a pill, buy a quick fix. Repeat a positive mantra, manifest your way out. But what if the very thing we've been conditioned to escape is, in truth, the most sacred part of being human? The Stoics carried a concept they called amor fati, to love your fate. Not simply accept it, not just endure it, but love it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." He was reminding us that our hardships are not random punishments, they're deliberate teachers, precisely placed. I remember sitting with a close friend who was navigating a divorce after 2 decades of marriage. She apologized every time the tears came. She kept telling me she should be stronger, that she should be over it by now. And it hit me how heartbreaking it is that we've been taught to feel shame for our struggles, rather than reverence for them. Your struggle is sacred because it's shaping you into someone you could never become otherwise. That anxiety you carry, it's giving you empathy for others fighting invisible battles. That depression weighing heavy on your chest, it's deepening your capacity to experience joy in ways that effortless happiness never could. That loss that shattered your heart, it's expanding your ability to love beyond what you once thought possible. Every person who's left a lasting mark on this world, teachers, healers, artists, leaders, innovators, shares a common thread. They struggled. They faced nights when quitting seemed easier. They wrestled with doubts about their strength, intelligence, and worth. And they discovered their struggle wasn't their disqualification, it was their credential. You can't walk someone through their darkness if you've never stumbled through your own. You can't comfort a grieving soul if you've never held grief yourself. You can't inspire persistence if you've never had to claw your way forward. Your challenges are giving you a depth of understanding no classroom could ever teach. And here's what makes them sacred. You decide their meaning. You can let them harden you, or you can let them make you wise. You can let them close your heart, or you can let them open it wider. You can let them convince you life is unfair, or you can let them reveal that life is hard for everyone. And that shared truth is what makes connection so powerful. Your struggle is sacred also because it's never static. It shifts, evolves, transforms you. The person who entered it will not be the same one who emerges. That transformation, that becoming, is where the holiness lies. Right now, you are in the process of becoming someone extraordinary. Someone who has faced fire and chosen to treat it as purification rather than destruction. Someone who has met their deepest fears and found strength they didn't know they had. Someone who has been broken and decided to let the cracks be the place where the light gets in. Your struggle is sacred because it is uniquely yours, crafted by a universe that believes you can handle it. Not without scars, not without tears, not without effort, but ultimately, triumphantly. Number 6. The bravery it takes to begin again. There comes a moment for all of us, sometimes more than once, when we realize it's time to begin again. Not because we've failed, not because we've given up, but because we've outgrown the person we used to be, and the life we built for that version no longer fits. Starting over at 25 feels like an adventure. Starting over at 35 feels intimidating. Starting over at 45 feels almost impossible. At any age, when you thought you had everything figured out, it requires a level of courage that many will never understand. Seneca, who lost wealth, influence, and eventually his life, knew this kind of courage well. He wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." His meaning wasn't that we should live more years, but that we should live more fully. Even when that means letting go of comfort to walk into uncertainty. Picture a woman in her early 50s leaving behind a high-paying law career to become a teacher. From the outside, it may look like she's lost her mind. Why trade security and prestige for a beginner's salary and an unfamiliar role? Why choose uncertainty over the comfort she's earned? For her, it isn't about running away from something bad. It's about answering a deeper call. Working with children rekindles a passion buried for decades. She rediscovers why she once loved learning, and that clarity makes the leap worth every risk. Starting over isn't erasing your past. It's folding every lesson, every mistake, every skill into the foundation for what's next. None of it disappears. It all becomes part of the architecture of your new life. The courage to start again is really the courage to trust yourself more than you trust other people's opinions. It's choosing growth over comfort, potential over predictability, authenticity over approval. It's saying, I don't know exactly where this will lead, but I know I can't stay here. Maybe you're in that place right now, needing to start fresh in some area of your life. Maybe it's a relationship that's been dead for years, but fear of being alone has kept you there. Maybe it's a job that pays the bills, but drains your spirit. Maybe it's a version of yourself that everyone else loves, but that feels like a costume you've outgrown. Here's what I want you to remember. Starting over isn't quitting, it's evolving. It's the difference between simply existing and truly living. The world needs people willing to prove that reinvention is possible. People who remind us we're not chained to our first decisions, our past mistakes, or the labels others have given us. Starting over lets you carry forward the wisdom while leaving behind the regret. It lets you honor who you were while stepping fully into who you're becoming. Yes, it's frightening. Yes, you might stumble. Yes, others might not understand. But there's something far scarier. Reaching the end of your life and realizing you never had the courage to live the life you truly wanted. Your future self is counting on you to be bold enough now, to choose possibility over predictability, to trust that you can build something worthwhile, even if you have to begin with nothing but open hands and an open heart. If you're still here, it's because something in you recognizes these words were meant for you. Not because your life is harder than everyone else's, but because you're ready to see your struggles with new eyes. You're ready to stop running from your pain and start listening to what it has to teach you. You're ready to stop apologizing for feeling deeply and start wielding that depth as your greatest advantage. Here's the truth the Stoics held close and we too often forget. We are not victims of what happens to us. We are students of it. Every challenge is a lesson crafted for our growth. Every loss clears a space for something more aligned. Every ending is the quiet beginning of something new. The tears you've shed while hearing these words are not signs of weakness. They are signs of recognition. They are your soul remembering its own resilience, your heart recalling its own courage, your spirit waking to its own strength. You arrived in this world with everything you need to navigate what comes your way. Not without scars, not without moments of doubt, not without days when you want to stop trying, but ultimately with the capacity to overcome. Your hardships are not proof that something is broken in you. They are evidence that you are alive, that you care, that you are growing into someone extraordinary. Epictetus wrote that each of us is an actor in a play written by the author of life. We do not choose the length or nature of our role, only how well we perform it. Your role might involve heartbreak, setbacks, reinvention, deep feelings, and letting go of things you love. But it is yours, and you are the only one who can bring it fully to life. The world needs your story. It needs your sensitivity, your battles, your experience of coming apart and piecing yourself back together. It needs proof that people can survive their lowest moments and still choose to love, to hope, and to seek beauty. So here's what I want you to do now. If this message stirred something inside you, hit that like button, not for me, but as a vow to yourself that you'll stop seeing your struggles as signs you're failing and start seeing them as training for who you're becoming. Leave a comment telling someone else they are not alone. Share this with a person whose heart needs to hear it. And subscribe, because we are building a community of people who understand that difficulties are not walls, but doorways to the life they are meant to live. Remember this. You are not damaged, you are opening. And that changes everything. If you feel this truth deep in your core, write it in the comments as a promise to yourself. I am not broken. I am breaking open.